Four stanzas, 112 words, one father's survival kit for a son. The poem the British Army still prints on wallet cards and Muhammad Ali kept taped to his gym mirror. You know the poem. Maybe you have seen it on a poster in a graduation card or on a motivational Instagram post. A poem ever written as a blueprint for stoic strength. But what if I told you this iconic poem wasn't just generic advice? Its origin is a story of political scandal, personal admiration, and one of the most devastating tragedies a parent can face. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are plunging into a poem that's more than just words on a page. It's a timeless guide to building character and living a meaningful life. We are talking about Rudyard Kipling's iconic poem, If. Born in India in 1865, Kipling was an incredibly influential writer known for his works like The Jungle Book and Kim. He was also a keen observer of people and society. You have probably heard lines from his poem like, "If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs." Where did this powerful piece come from, and what makes it so special? Let's find out. Let's start with what most people think they know. Rudyard Kipling published If in 1910 in a book called Rewards and Fairies. It's subtitled Brothers Square Toes, which sounds odd, but we'll get to that. It's written as a single long piece of advice from a father to a son, ending with that famous line, "Yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son." It feels deeply personal, and it was. Kipling did have a son, John, and the poem absolutely embodies the virtues he wanted to instill in him: patience, courage, integrity, and resilience. For over a century, it's been read as exactly that, a father's guide to his boy. But that's only half the story, and it misses the darker, more complex inspiration. In December 1895, Leander Jameson rides into the Boer Republic with 500 men. It's a reckless raid, a rather infamous event called the Jameson Raid. It collapses in days, and London turns him into a laughing stock of the empire. Jameson was a fascinating character, a doctor, an explorer, and a key figure in British colonial expansion in southern Africa. He was also a friend of Kipling's. This raid caused quite a stir, and there was a lot of debate about Jameson's judgment and character. Kipling, who was visiting his father-in-law John Walter, the editor of the Times, around this time, was privy to these discussions. Some accounts suggest that Walter himself was concerned about how Jameson's actions reflected on him. Kipling, however, watches the trial and sees the opposite. A man kept his head while everyone lost theirs. That image, "if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs," is born right there in the courtroom. Here's the key. Through this very public disaster, Jameson did something remarkable. He didn't make excuses. He didn't blame others. He accepted his fate with a stoic, most defiant dignity. He kept his head while everyone else was losing theirs. Kipling was deeply impressed. His friend's nickname was Brother Square Toes, that same dedication in the poem. If is in many ways a portrait of Jameson's character under fire. It's about how you bear failure, not just how you achieve success. He wrote it as a message, a set of life principles, perhaps for Jameson, or perhaps for a general reflection on kind of strength and character he admired, and which he felt his friend, despite his missteps, embodied. It's a father's advice to his son, a blueprint for integrity and resilience. This is where the story twists from poignant to heartbreaking. Just 4 years later, World War I erupts. Kipling, a fierce patriot, used his influence to get his son John a commission in the Irish Guards. John was only 17 and he had notoriously poor eyesight. In September 1915, at the Battle of Loos, 2nd Lieutenant John Kipling went missing in action. For years, Kipling and his wife searched, wrote letters, followed every lead. John's body was not identified until 1992. Kipling was shattered. The poem If now stood in a devastating new light. The virtues it preached, endurance, facing doubt, never giving way to hate, were the very virtues Kipling himself would need to survive his own unimaginable loss. The poem became a kind of prophecy and then a memorial. So, when we reread If with this context, it changes. It's not just abstract advice. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, that's Jameson in the dock. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, that's the soldier in the trench and the father waiting at home. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, that's the ultimate stoic challenge, to persevere against an uncaring universe. It's a poem about internal empire, mastering yourself, written by a poet of the British Empire. That's why its legacy is so complex. The poem's journey mirrors the 20th century. First, it was a pillar of imperial virtue. Then it was criticized as outdated and repressive. Today, we can see it more clearly, a product of its time. Yes, but its core appeal is timeless. We all face our own Jameson raids, personal failures, public humiliations. We all face our unforgiving minutes, periods of grief, pressure and doubt. If doesn't give us a way out, it gives us a way through. It asks, what does your character look like when everything is stripped away? The tragic irony is that Kipling wrote the ultimate guide to resilience for a son who would never get to use it, inspired by a friend who failed spectacularly. And in doing so, he gave the world a piece of wisdom that endures, not because it's easy, but because it's true. In the next video, we will break the poem line by line and show why If is secretly a leadership manual disguised as poetry. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it and drop a comment. Which line of If keeps you steady? when the world goes sideways. Thanks for watching.